Archangel Michael says, "I am sent to whisper into your soul that a message of great importance is unfolding, and it comes from the heart of heaven, carrying the gentle but firm weight of God's truth, because something serious has been moving silently behind you, and while you may not see it yet with your eyes, the Lord in His boundless love is already turning what was meant for harm into a pathway of hope and restoration. And now someone has finally begun to see the light of who you truly are. In God's sight, a radiant soul chosen for a purpose that cannot be erased." Type 1111 if you agree. In the stillness of your days and in the quiet hours when you wonder if anyone notices the heaviness you have carried, the heavens have been attentive, and the hand of God has never left you even for a moment, because your tears, though hidden from many, have been collected with tenderness by the one who shaped you with love beyond measure, and now the winds of change are shifting, making space for a season where the shadows behind your back will lose their power and the truth of your worth will shine through like a sunrise breaking the long night. Subscribe to this channel if you believe God is always with you. The weight you have carried was not unnoticed, for there were times when people overlooked the quiet strength within you, and though some chose not to acknowledge your value, the Lord has always seen it clearly, nurturing it in silence until the moment when the world would begin to recognize the treasure they had ignored. And now that moment has come, where heaven itself is sending confirmations that your journey has not been wasted, and that the hidden trials were not signs of weakness but foundations of resilience and faith that cannot be shaken. Though many tried to whisper doubts behind your back, though some planted seeds of misunderstanding or carried words not rooted in kindness, those seeds will no longer define the garden of your life, for God is planting anew with His divine hand, and the fragrance of His mercy will cover every scar, turning the very places where pain tried to grow into grounds of beauty and peace, so that others who once doubted you will stand in awe of the grace that raised you higher than you ever thought you could rise. It is not by accident that this message comes to you now, because heaven has been watching over your steps and aligning circumstances in ways that may not always make sense to your human understanding, but every moment of waiting, every silent prayer, and every trial endured has been a part of a greater plan that is only now beginning to be revealed. And the same voices that doubted your faith will soon see that God has been with you all along, shaping you for a testimony that will inspire those who are weary and lift those who feel unseen. Type Amen if you believe. There is a seriousness in the movement of these days, because behind your back there have been forces that hoped you would stumble, but the protection of heaven has shielded you, and though storms tried to gather against you, the light within you has been preserved, and this light is now growing so radiant that even those who tried to deny it cannot help but see it. For God Himself is making your life a living testimony of His endless mercy and His power to bring beauty out of brokenness. Archangel Michael brings this message not to burden you with fear, but to awaken your heart with comfort, because what was once spoken in secret will soon be silenced, and what was once hidden from you will be exposed, not to harm you but to set you free from the weight of shadows, so that you may walk forward without chains, without hesitation, and without the need to prove yourself to anyone, because your worth has always been written by the hand of God and no voice can erase what He has spoken over you. You may have walked through valleys where recognition felt far away, where your quiet acts of love and your silent endurance seemed to go unnoticed, but know this now with unwavering certainty, Heaven saw every step and kept record of every moment, and now the time of revealing has begun, where the eyes of others will open to the light that was always upon you. And you will see that the story was never about the shadows but about the faith that carried you through them, shaping you into a vessel of God's radiant glory. Remain with me until the end, because what you will hear is a gift of hope from above. The message is clear, and it is wrapped in gentleness, though it carries the weight of divine urgency, because behind your back there has been a stirring, but God is turning it into a testimony, and while some may have underestimated you or misjudged your heart, the truth is now being unveiled, and those who once overlooked you will no longer be able to deny the beauty of the grace that rests upon your life. As heaven lifts you into a place where healing flows freely and hope becomes your unshakable foundation. Type 1818 to claim miracles. Archangel Michael says, "Do not let the heaviness of past whispers pull you down anymore, for the Lord is speaking louder now, and His voice carries love that drowns out every doubt, reminding you that your path is held securely in His hands, and though the storms may have lingered longer than you desired, they could not destroy you because His purpose for you is eternal." And today, with tenderness, He wants you to feel the assurance that you are seen, you are valued, and you are stepping into a season where His light will reveal to all that you are chosen and deeply loved. Archangel Michael says, "Heaven is opening its arms toward you with a message of great tenderness, for the days you have been walking through are shifting into something new, and the weight that once felt like a shadow following you is being lifted by the gentle hands of God, who has never allowed your heart to be crushed even when the burden seemed too heavy to bear, and in this moment the love of Christ is moving closer than ever, wrapping around you with warmth that cannot be stolen by circumstances or silenced by the doubts of others." There are seasons when people walk in silence and carry more than anyone can imagine, and though the world may not fully understand the quiet ache of your spirit, the eyes of the Lord have always been upon you, watching with compassion as you pressed on through the nights of tears and the mornings of uncertainty. And while you may have felt alone in those hours, the truth is that heaven surrounded you with unseen strength, keeping you from breaking when everything else around you felt fragile. Because you are never abandoned, never forgotten, and always cherished in the depths of God's eternal heart. Type Amen if your faith is strong, and share this video with 7 people of faith to welcome blessings and miracles into your life. This message comes to you as a reminder that every unseen moment, every hidden act of love, and every quiet prayer that you whispered has risen like incense before God, and nothing has been overlooked, for His memory of your faithfulness is eternal, and His hands are now stretching forth to bring comfort, healing, and a fresh renewal of hope, so that your spirit can rise above the weight of old sorrows, and you can walk freely into the brightness of what He has prepared for you beyond the trials of the past. Archangel Michael speaks with urgency because behind your journey there have been forces that desired your spirit to falter, yet none could prevail, for God's shield has guarded you, and the love of Jesus has stood like a wall of fire between you and every scheme that sought to dim your light. And now the time has come for the truth of your resilience to shine more brightly, revealing not just the strength of your own endurance but the power of divine grace that has been carrying you step by step even when you thought you could not take another breath. Type 1010 if you trust in God's timing. There is a sacred beauty in the way your life has unfolded, for though it has been touched by wounds and marked by trials, each scar has been cradled by God's mercy and transformed into a place where His healing light now shines, so that when others look at you they do not see brokenness but a vessel of resilience, softened by compassion and strengthened by faith. And this is why heaven says that your story is not defined by the pain but by the grace that has filled every empty space with strength and every moment of despair with a spark of hope that refused to fade. You have been chosen for a journey that carries weight beyond your understanding, and though the road has not been smooth, the guiding hand of Christ has always been steady, leading you through valleys of confusion into places where your spirit could breathe again, and in every moment when you thought you had reached your end, He was there, whispering softly that you were held, that you were loved, and that nothing could steal the purpose that was written into your life before you ever took your first breath. The serious matters moving unseen behind you are being addressed by heaven itself, for no scheme against your destiny can endure when the Lord has declared His promise over you. And though others may have spoken words that carried doubt or planted thoughts meant to discourage, those words are dissolving in the presence of God's truth, replaced by declarations of peace and assurance that you are His child, held in His hands, and surrounded by a love so vast that no power on earth or beyond can ever remove it from your life. Archangel Michael reminds you now that the very moments which tried to break you are the same moments that became the ground where your faith grew stronger, for endurance has shaped you into a person of courage, and compassion has been born from every wound, allowing your heart to carry light for those who walk in darkness, and because of this the world will not only see what God has done in you, but they will be drawn to the radiance of His love flowing through you, as your life becomes a beacon of comfort to the weary and a source of hope to the broken. Type 888 to open doors of abundance. Even when you could not see the greater picture, heaven has been painting it in colors you cannot yet imagine, weaving every trial into a tapestry that will one day reveal how nothing was wasted, and how every struggle was preparing you for a season of joy that will be unlike anything you have known before, because the Father does not abandon the seeds He plants. And your life is proof that what begins in pain can blossom into beauty when it is watered by His faithfulness and nourished by His unending mercy. Archangel Michael says, "Let your heart be lifted today, for the shadows that once tried to surround you are losing their hold, and the whispers behind your back are silenced by the voice of God declaring peace, declaring love, and declaring your identity as one who belongs to Him, and in this assurance you can walk forward with your head lifted, not because of pride but because of the gentle confidence that comes from knowing you are deeply loved, eternally valued, and carried every moment by the grace of the One who gave His life so you could live in hope that never ends." Archangel Michael says, "A new wave of heavenly strength is being poured into your life at this very moment, because the Father who loves you with an everlasting love has chosen to breathe fresh hope into your weary heart, lifting the veil of heaviness that has lingered for too long, and drawing you gently into a season where the burdens of yesterday will no longer weigh down the steps of tomorrow. Your soul has been walking through a valley where silence often felt louder than any spoken word, and the loneliness of those hidden struggles pressed against your spirit like a heavy cloak, yet in all of it the Lord Jesus has never let go of you, for His arms have been around you even when you could not sense them, and His love has been whispering life into your spirit even in the places where despair tried to root itself, keeping you alive and holding you together with a tenderness that the world cannot offer. There are many things that others cannot see, for while people may notice only fragments of your journey, heaven has seen the entire story, and God Himself has watched every step with compassion, noting the strength it took to rise again after each fall, treasuring every moment where you chose love over bitterness, and honoring every tear that fell from your eyes as sacred offerings that will never be forgotten. Because in His eyes nothing you have endured is wasted, and every part of your journey is being transformed into a testimony that will shine brighter than the shadows of your past. Type 1212 if you believe God is guiding you. Archangel Michael brings this message because heaven knows the seriousness of what has been moving behind you, and though some may have spoken in ways that cast doubt upon your heart, their words cannot shape your destiny, for only the voice of God has the authority to write your story, and that story is one of grace, resilience, and divine purpose, where what was once used against you will soon become the very reason others believe in the power of faith, as your life reveals the unshakable truth that God can turn any storm into a song of hope. There is a beauty in your endurance that even you may not fully realize, for the light of Christ has been glowing within you through every battle, and while the scars of the past remain as reminders, they are no longer wounds but marks of survival, proof that you stood firm in the arms of God even when the winds raged, and now those very scars are being turned into streams of healing, not only for your own soul but for others who will find courage because of the strength you discovered in Him. This message carries both comfort and urgency, for the shifting of seasons is not something far away but something already unfolding, and the love of God is calling you to release the weight of what was spoken against you, to let go of the fear that once tried to cage your heart, and to step forward into a new rhythm of trust, where your spirit can rest in the truth that Jesus is guiding your every step, and no hidden plan formed behind your back can overcome the shield of His protection that covers you always. Archangel Michael reminds you that every night you cried in silence has been turned into a seed of joy, planted in the soil of faith and watered by the mercy of heaven, and though you may not yet see the fullness of its bloom, soon you will look back and realize that every hardship was preparing you for a harvest of peace, a harvest of healing, and a harvest of new beginnings that will fill your heart with gratitude for the one who never abandoned you. Your journey has been more than survival. It has been the shaping of a soul that carries light even in the darkest places, and while others may only now begin to notice who you truly are, heaven has always known, and God has always celebrated the courage that kept you pressing on when no one else understood, because your faithfulness has been a fragrance that reached the throne of grace, and in return, heaven is now pouring out blessings of restoration and favor that will cover every place where sorrow once tried to dwell. Type 333 to welcome blessings. This is not merely about what has been said or done behind you, it is about the truth that stands before you, the truth that Jesus Christ is your anchor, your healer, and your guide, and He is declaring over you that nothing hidden in the shadows can undo the love He has written into your story, for His light exposes every scheme and replaces it with clarity, strength, and peace, and in this assurance you can walk forward without fear, knowing that the Lord Himself is fighting battles you do not even see. Archangel Michael says, allow this message to rest gently in your heart, for it is not only a word of comfort but also a promise that what has been working in silence against you is losing its hold, and the voice of heaven is speaking louder, declaring that you are chosen, you are safe, and you are stepping into a time where healing flows without measure, love surrounds without limit, and the peace of God will be the melody that guides every step you take from this day forward. Archangel Michael says, "The heavens are drawing nearer to your spirit in this moment, not to overwhelm you with fear, but to assure you that divine love is working in quiet ways to heal the places of your life where pain once settled deeply, and to remind you that the Father who has never abandoned you is now bringing light into areas that once seemed hidden in shadow, so you can finally walk forward with peace that flows like a gentle river into every corner of your being." The Lord has always seen what others could not, for while many may have judged from the outside, heaven has looked within, noticing the courage that carried you through nights of tears, recognizing the faith that kept you moving even when everything in you wanted to stop, and cherishing the way you held on to hope even when silence stretched longer than you ever thought you could bear. And in those moments the heart of Christ was never far, but closer than your own breath, wrapping you in unseen arms and whispering into your soul that you were never forgotten. Your life is not a story of defeat, though it has faced trials that would have crushed another, for you have been held together by a grace stronger than any burden, and now that grace is lifting you into a new chapter where the weight of the past will not dictate the rhythm of your future, because God has already spoken life into what once felt lifeless, and His voice is stronger than every doubt, every whisper, and every shadow that ever tried to convince you otherwise. Archangel Michael speaks these words with gentle urgency because there have been matters stirred behind your back, things designed to unsettle your peace and weaken your spirit, yet they cannot stand against the protection of the Almighty, for Jesus has gone before you and placed a wall of fire around your life, a wall built not from human strength but from eternal love. And this shield has kept you safe even in moments when you were unaware of how close danger truly was. Type 111 if you believe miracles are near. There is a tenderness in God's plan that often goes unnoticed, for while the world may see only broken fragments, heaven sees the beauty being shaped through every crack, and your soul has been molded in ways that will one day bring comfort to others, for the compassion you carry now is born not from ease but from endurance. And the strength within you is not just for your own survival but for the healing of those who will one day find refuge in the light that flows from your testimony. The message today is not meant to remind you of pain but to assure you of transformation, because the very struggles that once sought to bury your spirit have instead become the soil where new life is growing, and though you may not yet see the blossoms, heaven already sees the garden, flourishing in beauty that cannot be diminished, a garden watered by tears but shining with joy that will soon take its rightful place in your life, filling your days with peace beyond what you once thought possible. Every hour you endured in silence, every moment you pressed forward when no one else understood, has been a seed sown into eternity, and heaven is now returning those seeds as blessings, turning emptiness into abundance, and loneliness into companionship with the Spirit who never leaves your side, and this companionship is stronger than any earthly bond, for it carries you not just through days of joy but through nights of sorrow, keeping you steady until the dawn finally breaks and your soul can rest again in the warmth of God's eternal promise. Archangel Michael brings this message so that you will not give in to the lies that were spoken in shadows, for though there may have been voices that doubted your heart or misunderstood your intentions, the truth is now rising above them all, because God Himself has been your witness, and His testimony is one of love, assurance, and faithfulness, declaring that your worth was never tied to human approval, but to the eternal embrace of the one who formed you with purpose before the foundation of the world. Let your heart rest in this truth, for the battles behind your back are no longer battles for you to fight, they are battles already covered by the presence of the Lord, who walks before you, beside you, and within you, ensuring that no scheme can prosper against the destiny written for you. And as you release the weight of what others have said or done, you will find yourself stepping lighter, breathing freer, and walking boldly into the plans of peace and healing that God has already prepared ahead of you. Archangel Michael says, "The love of Christ is your shelter and your song, the presence of God is your anchor in every storm, and the Spirit of heaven surrounds you like a cloak of protection that cannot be pierced by doubt or fear." And as you move forward in this assurance, you will see how every broken moment was not the end but the beginning, and every tear shed in silence is now being turned into a radiant testimony of God's unending mercy, carrying you into a future filled with hope, light, and a peace that will never be taken away. Type 2020 to claim joy and strength. Archangel Michael says, "The Spirit of the Lord is drawing close to you in this very moment, gently wrapping your soul in light that no darkness can overcome, reminding you that even when shadows seem to gather around you, heaven never allowed them to consume you, because the love of God has always been stronger than every storm and greater than every wound that life attempted to leave upon your heart." There are hidden truths being revealed now, truths that remind you that you are not defined by the misunderstandings of others, nor by the weight of unkind words spoken behind your back, but by the eternal declaration of the Father who calls you beloved, chosen, and precious, and this truth cannot be erased by time, altered by opinion, or weakened by circumstance, because it flows from the very heart of Christ who gave himself so that you could walk in peace that will never be taken away. Your spirit may have felt weary at times, carrying burdens that seemed far too heavy to bear, yet in those very hours when you thought you might collapse under the weight of it all, the gentle strength of heaven lifted you quietly, giving you the endurance to take one more step, the courage to keep moving forward, and the faith to trust that your story was not ending in sorrow but was unfolding toward hope. And today that hope is becoming more visible, like the first rays of dawn breaking through a long night of silence. Archangel Michael brings this message to assure you that what has been spoken in hidden corners cannot stop the plans that heaven has already set into motion. For even though whispers tried to shake your confidence, God's voice speaks louder, declaring peace where confusion once reigned, declaring healing where wounds once burned, and declaring joy where heaviness tried to linger. And now your soul is being drawn into a season where truth will shine brighter than deception, and where the eyes of others will finally begin to see what heaven has seen in you all along. The beauty of your journey lies not in the absence of hardship but in the strength that has grown within you through every trial, because resilience has been carved into your spirit by the steady hand of God, and compassion has been planted in your heart by the tender presence of Christ, so that the very pain which once tried to silence you has instead become the soil from which your testimony now blooms, reaching others who are in need of the same assurance that has carried you through. This message carries a sacred gentleness, for it does not come to remind you of sorrow but to lift your gaze toward the future, where every broken piece of your story will be gathered by God and shaped into something whole, something beautiful, and something filled with purpose, because He wastes nothing, And even the chapters that seemed hardest to endure are becoming part of the masterpiece that heaven has been writing over your life since the beginning. Type 1616 if you surrender to God's will. Archangel Michael reminds you that your spirit is being renewed each day, even when you do not notice it, for the strength you carry now is greater than the strength you once had, and the faith alive within you has been purified in the fire of trials, making it stronger, deeper, and unshakable, and this faith will be the light that guides you through the days ahead, not only for yourself but for others who will find courage in the story of how you endured and still chose love. Behind your back there may have been voices that doubted, actions that hurt, or plans that were meant to break you, but all of them are dissolving in the presence of God's truth, for nothing formed against you can stand when the Lord has declared His promise over your life, and His promise is not one of defeat but of restoration, not of sorrow but of peace, and not of abandonment but of eternal companionship with the one who holds you closer than anyone else ever could. Let your heart rest in this assurance, for you do not need to fight battles that heaven has already won for you, nor do you need to carry the weight of proving yourself to those who could not see your worth, because your worth is not measured by their recognition but by God's unchanging love, and His recognition is eternal, sealed by the sacrifice of Christ and confirmed by the Spirit who now whispers to you that you are safe, you are valued, and you are deeply, unconditionally loved. Archangel Michael says, "Let these words bring peace to the places within you that still feel unsettled, for heaven is not only aware of what has been said or done in secret but has already answered with love, turning what was meant for harm into a testimony of hope, and guiding you into a future where your spirit will flourish like a tree planted by living waters, rooted in God's truth, strengthened by Christ's love, and blossoming with fruit that will bring healing, comfort, and light to everyone touched by your life." Archangel Michael says, "A quiet strength is being poured into your spirit, a strength that comes not from your own striving but from the endless love of God, who has been holding you with such gentleness through every storm, reminding you that no matter how heavy the weight behind you has been, you are never left to carry it alone, for His presence surrounds you like a shield that cannot be broken." There is a beauty in the way heaven works, often unseen by human eyes yet always active in every detail of your life, weaving protection around you when whispers tried to wound, lifting your spirit when burdens felt unbearable, and sending peace into your heart even when you did not realize it, because you are precious to the Lord, and your journey is sacred to Him, guarded at every turn by the watchful care of His angels and guided by the tender voice of His Son who loves you beyond measure. Your days may have carried moments where shadows seemed to press too closely, moments where the silence of others felt like rejection, and where the hidden actions behind your back seemed to weigh heavier than your strength could bear. Yet in each of those moments the Spirit of God was breathing quietly into your soul, giving you the endurance to rise again, the faith to keep walking forward, and the assurance that no matter what was whispered in secret, the truth of His love would speak louder. In time. Type 1515 to receive peace in your soul. Archangel Michael brings this message because heaven has always seen the unseen, and while others may only now be beginning to notice the light within you, God has treasured it from the very beginning, nurturing it patiently through every trial, shaping it through every wound, and allowing it to grow so strong that nothing can extinguish it, for the fire of divine love within your heart is eternal. And it will only burn brighter as you continue to walk in the presence of Christ who is your healer and your guide. There are things shifting around you even now, movements in the spiritual realm where battles you never knew existed are being fought and won on your behalf, because the Father does not leave His children unprotected, and though the plans of darkness may have gathered quietly, they have already been shattered by the power of God's light, which surrounds you as a shield and declares that you are safe, you are loved, and you are stepping into a future that no hidden voice can destroy. The path you have walked has been marked with endurance, and though there were moments when you felt unseen, the truth is that heaven has been celebrating you all along, cherishing the quiet acts of kindness, honoring the silent strength that no one else recognized, and blessing the gentle faith that kept rising within you even when doubt tried to settle, for these are treasures in the eyes of God, and He is now revealing them in ways that will bring peace not only to your heart but to others who will be touched by your life. This message is filled with comfort because you need to know that your identity has never been defined by those who doubted you or by the shadows that moved behind your back, but by the one who calls you His own, who speaks your name with love, who carries you in every breath of His Spirit, and who promises that nothing formed against you will succeed, because His plan is greater, His love is stronger, and His presence is unshakable. Archangel Michael reminds you that every scar you carry has been touched by the mercy of Christ, and instead of being marks of defeat, they are signs of resilience, proof that you survived what was meant to break you, and evidence that the grace of God is alive within you, turning pain into strength and sorrow into compassion, so that your life will shine as a beacon of hope for others who are struggling to believe that healing is possible. Let your heart breathe in the peace of these words, for heaven does not send messages in vain, and this assurance comes to you because the time of healing has begun, the time of restoration is unfolding, and the shadows of yesterday are giving way to a horizon of light where your spirit will no longer be weighed down but will rise with freedom, confidence, and joy, knowing that you are walking hand in hand with the one who has always loved you. Type 666 if you trust in God's grace and mercy. Archangel Michael says, "Be gentle with yourself in these days, for you are not expected to carry the weight of the world, only to rest in the arms of God, who lifts what you cannot, heals what you cannot, and strengthens what you cannot, and as you trust Him, you will see that the whispers behind your back have no power compared to the voice of heaven declaring life, declaring peace, and declaring that your future is filled with hope that will never be taken away." Archangel Michael says, "The Father's love is surrounding you like a gentle blanket of light, shielding you from every hidden storm, whispering softly that your days are not defined by what others have done in secret, but by the eternal promise that you belong to Him, chosen before the beginning of time to walk in a grace that cannot be undone by whispers, shadows, or unseen plans." There have been moments where you felt unseen, where the quiet actions behind your back pressed heavily on your spirit, creating doubts that tried to settle in your heart, yet through it all, the presence of Christ has remained steady, carrying you in arms of compassion, reminding you that your value is not found in the fleeting opinions of people but in the everlasting truth of God's love that cannot be diminished or silenced, no matter what voices have tried to say otherwise. Your journey has been filled with nights where the silence seemed endless, and mornings where weariness weighed heavier than hope, but even then, heaven was working quietly, weaving strength into your soul, and planting seeds of faith deep within your spirit, so that when the time was right, you would rise not in bitterness but in beauty, not in defeat but in strength, and not in sorrow but in the radiant joy of one who has been carried through by grace. Archangel Michael brings this message because the seriousness of what has been stirring behind your back has not gone unnoticed by heaven, and while those shadows once seemed overwhelming, they have been met by a greater power, for the Lord Himself has been standing as your shield, deflecting what was meant to harm you, silencing the voices that tried to speak against you, and preparing a way forward where your heart can finally breathe freely without fear of what others may think or say. There is a gentleness in God's ways that you may not always see in the moment, but over time it becomes clear that He has never wasted a single tear, never ignored a single prayer, and never left you even for an instant, because His faithfulness is constant, His presence is unwavering, and His care for you is beyond anything this world could offer. And now He is calling you to rest in this truth, to release the fear of shadows, and to walk in the peace of knowing you are eternally safe in His love. Type 555 to receive blessings and miracles. The strength you carry today is not the same as the strength you had before the storms, for you have been shaped into someone who understands endurance, who knows compassion, and who has discovered a depth of faith that only comes from walking through valleys. And now this strength is not just for your own survival but for the healing of others, because your story will become light for those who feel trapped in darkness, and your testimony will be hope for those who wonder if they too can endure. Archangel Michael reminds you that heaven has already gone before you, preparing the way in places you have not yet reached, and clearing obstacles that you cannot see, because your journey is not random but guided by divine hands. And even when shadows gathered behind you, they were never stronger than the one who stands ahead of you, leading you into a future filled with promise, purpose, and peace that no human word can remove. Let your heart be comforted by this assurance, for what others failed to see in you, God has always known, and the time has come for that hidden light to shine more clearly than ever before, not to bring pride but to bring glory to the one who sustained you, and to bring encouragement to those who will see your life and understand that God's love truly transforms even the hardest journeys into paths of beauty and hope. Every wound you once carried has been touched by divine mercy, and where pain once spoke loudly, healing now speaks louder, filling you with a peace that cannot be explained but only experienced. And this peace is the gift of Christ, who calls you His own and promises that you will never walk alone, for His hand will always guide you, His love will always surround you, and His Spirit will always lift you, no matter what shadows may have tried to linger in the background. Archangel Michael says, "Do not let the memory of hidden words or unseen actions weigh you down anymore, for the Lord has already answered them with love, and His answer is final, declaring that you are not bound by the past but free in His presence, not defined by pain but renewed by grace, and not forgotten in silence but celebrated in heaven, where your name is written in love that cannot be erased, and your future is secured in a hope that will never fail." Archangel Michael says, "The light of heaven is reaching into your life in ways that are quiet yet powerful, touching the very places where you once carried sorrow and gently replacing them with peace that cannot be stolen, for the Lord has decided that this is the season when your spirit will rise above what was done behind your back, stepping into freedom that flows from His unshakable love." There were times when you felt weighed down by unseen struggles, when words spoken in the shadows seemed to cut deeper than silence itself, and when misunderstandings left you wondering if your heart would ever be truly known. Yet even in those moments, the presence of Christ was holding you together, breathing strength into your weakness, and protecting you from breaking under the heaviness of what others could not understand, because He has always seen you completely and loved you fully. Type 333 to welcome peace into your heart. The truth is that heaven has never been blind to your journey, and while the world may have overlooked your pain, every tear has been gathered, every prayer has been heard, and every step has been recorded with love, for the Father does not let His children walk unnoticed, and you are His beloved, cherished more deeply than you could ever imagine, carried in arms that never grow weary and covered by grace that will never fail. Archangel Michael speaks with assurance because the seriousness of what has been moving against you in silence is being met by the greater power of God's truth, and though shadows try to rise, they are already dissolving in the brilliance of His light, for nothing formed in darkness can overcome the plans of the One who spoke the universe into being, and His plan for you is filled not with defeat but with hope, healing, and a future overflowing with His goodness. The strength you have gained through trials is not only for yourself but for those who will one day need the comfort of your story, because your life has become a testimony of how God sustains His children through valleys and lifts them into places of peace, and this testimony will shine as a beacon, guiding others who are weary, reminding them that they too are not forgotten, and showing them that even when shadows gather, the love of God is always greater. Your scars are no longer marks of pain but of survival, reminders that you endured what was meant to break you and came out stronger, softer, and more compassionate, and heaven celebrates this transformation, for every wound has been touched by the mercy of Christ, every tear has been redeemed, and every hardship has been woven into a greater design, creating a tapestry of grace that reveals the unshakable faithfulness of God in your life. Archangel Michael reminds you that your worth has never been tied to what people said about you or what they failed to see, for human voices rise and fall, but the voice of God is eternal, and His declaration over your life has always been love, always been purpose, and always been peace, and now He is drawing you into a season where that truth will become clearer than ever, freeing you from the weight of shadows and guiding you into light that will never fade. Let your heart rest in this assurance, for heaven has already gone before you, silencing every word spoken in darkness, breaking every chain that tried to hold you, and opening doors of healing, joy, and renewal, so that you can walk forward without fear, knowing that the Lord is not only with you but ahead of you, preparing the way with tenderness, and behind you, guarding your steps with strength, making sure that no hidden plan can ever undo what He has promised. There is a beauty in how God transforms lives, for He takes the very things meant to harm and turns them into places of blessing, and your life is being shaped into such a story, where the pain of yesterday becomes the compassion of today, and the trials of the past become the wisdom of tomorrow, and as this transformation unfolds, others will see in you the evidence of His love, and they will be drawn not to your strength but to His presence shining through you. Type 444 if you believe in God's divine protection. Archangel Michael says, allow this message to breathe peace into your spirit, for you do not need to fight against the shadows anymore, because they are already defeated by the power of heaven's light, and you do not need to seek validation from those who failed to see your worth, because your worth has always been secure in the heart of God, and as you move forward, you will see more clearly than ever that you are chosen, you are safe, and you are loved beyond measure, forever embraced in the endless mercy of the One who created you. Archangel Michael says, "The heart of heaven leans close to you in this moment, not with condemnation or heaviness, but with love that restores and heals, for the Father has seen every path you have walked, and He is declaring that your journey is not in vain, because even the hidden places of pain are now being turned into streams of peace that will flow through your life like living waters." The world may not have recognized the depth of your endurance, and some may have spoken in ways that diminished your worth, yet the truth stands higher than those voices, for Jesus Himself has always known the purity of your heart, the quiet strength of your faith, and the resilience that has carried you through storms that would have broken many others, and He honors you with love that does not fade with time or bend under pressure. There have been whispers in the shadows, words spoken behind you that tried to paint your life with doubt, yet heaven never allowed those whispers to shape your destiny, because the hand of God has always been writing a greater story over your life, a story that silences lies, lifts burdens, and replaces fear with the calm assurance that no human opinion can erase what the Lord has already declared over you. Archangel Michael speaks with gentleness because heaven does not want your heart to dwell on the pain of what was done in secret, but to rest in the assurance that even those moments were seen by God and are now being turned into opportunities for blessing, for what was meant to harm you has been intercepted by the Spirit of the Lord, and instead of breaking you, it has refined you, shaping your soul into something even stronger, more compassionate, and more radiant with His love. The strength you carry today is a holy strength, born from nights when tears seemed endless and mornings when the weight felt unbearable, yet through it all, the quiet whisper of Christ's presence sustained you, assuring you that you were never alone, and now that strength is shining outward, not just for your own journey but as a light for others, for your life has become a testimony that even in the face of shadows, the love of God is greater. You are stepping into a time of renewal, a season where the weight of what was said behind you will no longer follow, because heaven has broken those chains, and the Spirit of God has placed a new song in your heart, a song of peace, of hope, and of assurance, and as you move forward, this song will carry you with confidence, reminding you that you are no longer defined by whispers but by the eternal love of the one who calls you His own. Archangel Michael reminds you that healing is not only about what you receive, but about what you now carry within you for others, because the compassion born from your wounds will flow outward, reaching those who feel invisible, those who feel broken, and those who wonder if they too are forgotten, and through your story, they will discover that God sees, God heals, and God loves without condition. And this is why your endurance has meaning beyond yourself. Let this assurance rest in your heart, for even as battles have been fought in silence, heaven has always stood on your side, and every unseen struggle has been met with divine strength, every hidden fear has been covered by peace, and every shadow has been chased away by light, so that nothing can truly stand against you, because the Lord Himself has claimed you as His child, and His claim is eternal. There is a beauty rising from your journey that will soon be undeniable, for what once seemed like fragments are being pieced together by God's hand into a picture of grace, and while you may have wondered if the weight of silence would ever lift, heaven assures you that the silence is breaking, and in its place comes a season filled with clarity, joy, and the gentle freedom of knowing that you are walking in step with God's love. Archangel Michael says, "Lift your spirit with these words, for they are not only comfort but promise, declaring that your past is redeemed, your present is secure, and your future is filled with hope, and no shadow can take this truth away. because the Lord who loves you has surrounded you with His presence, and nothing hidden, nothing whispered, and nothing done in secret can overcome the eternal light that shines upon you, guiding you forward with peace that will never end.